guys, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about manipulation and getting confirmation on the higher time frames for entries. So there's a lot of you that get very frustrated when you enter a trade, it's going in the right direction, and then you get stopped out because of manipulation. So I'll talk about how you can avoid that. Remember, nothing is 100%. You can get a high risk to reward and you can get a high win rate, like 80 to 90%, but nothing is ever 100%. And that is because of the fact that, there's times where you're going to be greedy. There's times where you're going to be having anxiety and FOMO and you're going to enter when you shouldn't be. And then again, it depends on specific times you're entering, but nothing is ever 100%. So we're trying to get you guys up to obviously 85 to 90% and having a big risk to reward. So aiming for a minimum of 1 to 3, and then, overall goal 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 30. Eventually, depending on the level of experience, but the more time you spend doing this, the better you'll get. But just letting you know, nothing is ever 100%. So if we take a look at a couple examples here with manipulation, we'll start with the major structure here on the 1 hour time frame. So if we identify this and put in the two prices, it's basically trying to break above 200. So for example, this was late New York, okay? So if you entered late New York and you entered too late, so for example, basically in this scenario, you would probably enter during Tokyo. So basically what happened is London came down, New York retested this minor structure here, but by that 500 mark, it closed, and then the beginning of the New York came up. So it came to major structure here. We can see that it ended up dropping about 243 pips. So when it's at that specific structure, you can expect the same thing. So if we draw this to here, that was also over 200 pips. Not as low as here because this was a major reversal area into buys, but you can expect the similar movement. So if you entered too late during New York, you would have got stopped out unless your stop loss was like 30 pips. You can also have to be careful of spread as well. Spread can also take you out. So it's really important that you don't get in too late during New York. So this would have been 1 p.m. Eastern. So that's when you don't really trade, honestly. I only trade at the beginning of New York, which would be, for me, that's between 6 to 8 a.m. Just depends on when price arrives or when structure arrives to a specific price. But majority of the times, it's the same exact times every single day. Depending on how fast or slow it's trending to that exact price. So in this case, that major structure hit at 11 a.m. So you wouldn't even be looking to take this sell trade. You would actually wait for Tokyo to tap in. So Tokyo actually retested this structure. So basically on a lower time frame, on a 15-minute, we would want to get more price action. The lower you go, so example, if we wanted to enter at 138, the lower you go, the more price action you see. So if you go on the 5-minute time frame and wanted to enter at 138, we're looking at two reactions. So 1, 2. In the complete basic terms, people would think that this is a double top. I don't do patterns. I don't teach like that because what it does is it rewires your brain to look at patterns and not to look at what you need to actually know, if that makes sense. So you're just going to be searching for all these patterns on these candles, but realistically, the candles are just there to represent the actual number and price that you want to enter on. Okay, so I teach a total different system. The reason why I teach it this way is because I've learned everything that you guys have as well. And it's just not consistently profitable, and you're focusing on the things that you shouldn't be focusing on. So I've backtested the market for years now, and I just find my way more profitable and way more simple to understand. So that's why I explain it to you guys. So anyways, there's two reactions at 138. So the more that you drop it down, the more you see that. So basically at the second reaction, you would take it at that 138 during Tokyo. Okay. And so for your stop loss, what you can do is you could have it above here, technically at 4 pips, but I teach my group to have it a little bit bigger. So I would have it, for example, in this example, this scenario, I'd have it at 15 pips. Just in case it manipulates. It won't because it's already has, but you just want to give it space to breathe just in case that does happen. Because the worst part is getting stopped out and then it going in the right direction, right? So in regards to the entry, once you get the entry at that specific price and you get enough price action at the specific price and number, you can set your stop loss and then you can go back up to the 30-minute or 1 hour and just follow through. So this would be your entry. So as you can see on the 1 hour, we can't get this entry just because there's not enough price action at that number. And that's why we're breaking down to get more price action. So you have your stop loss set and then basically you're looking for your target. So I've talked about targets multiple times. So there's a couple reactions in the middle here that you can draw. All you do is look left for your targets. And then basically you identify the two prices at each zone. And then follow through. And like I said, obviously we know like where price is headed, but I'm just going back with you guys, like how this works. So basically your first TP would be at these two prices based off the reaction here. So obviously this broke and tested, but it reacted to the T to these prices. And then this would be the next structure based off the left-hand side. This would be the next structure. And then obviously continue to drop further due to this reaction right here. Okay. So the point is that to avoid manipulation, you have to be paying attention to the times that you're entering at. So another example would be this structure right here. So we had an imbalance right here that ended up filling. Okay, so, and then if we looked left, this was bullish, this was bullish, this was bullish. So it's signaling a buy, essentially. So if we have our two prices here, we have to make sure those two prices break below. So basically 380 and 336. So we had one reaction here at manipulated. You never enter on the first reaction, okay? The reason for that is if you enter once it hits that major structure, and you enter at that specific price, and then again you're aiming for the target here and then here and so on and so on. But if you enter at the first reaction as it first gets there, it's never going to continue up. It's always going to come back down and test in. The reason for that is because different days and different time sessions are coming in. So if Tokyo tests into that price and starts buying inputting money, inputting buy orders, London's going to come in and they're going to want it at the same price, if not a lower price. So this is where it manipulates. This is where they're taking out buy stops. So if we entered a buy order, this is where they're taking all the stops out. And then as well as people are dropping to lower time frames, they're thinking that the structure is breaking and then they're selling and they're putting their stop loss above. So they're taking out sell stops as well. So there's a lot of things that are going on in this scenario when they are manipulating price and taking out stops. So it's super, super important that you understand what actually is happening. So London comes in, they push it to a lower price, and then they add more orders. And then basically the end of London starts pushing up, New York retests, and then it continues further up. So again, to avoid this manipulation, there's two things you can do. Wait for London to test in and wait for it to fully close above the 336 and 380. Another thing that you can do is you can count up. So from 380 to example 480, that would be 10 pips. So you can wait till this area clears, wait for this to break and test. So it tested once and twice at the 480. So if we go down on a lower time frame, you can basically get that price action on a lower time frame. So this all cleared. It was a little bit messy because again, it was just manipulating a lot and consolidating, and then eventually the buy orders took off and New York came in. So it retested and closed above the 480, and then it also retested here. If you go down lower, you can even get more and more and more price action at the 480. Okay, so you can always avoid the major structure, wait for it to actually break up, and then you can get it at the 480 or basically 500 essentially. So instead of taking it during Tokyo and London, you could take it at New York. Okay, so that was 9 a.m. New York, you would take it. So basically, essentially what needs to happen is the 400 area needs to clear. If the 400 area clears, we'll go up to 500, 6, so on and so on. So we're just looking left, but all these prices have to continue above, and the yen index has to be weak in order for that to happen. So again, it just depends on what time you're entering, and if there is major structure, like this was buys, this was buys, this was buys. So it's going to manipulate here because, again, they're trying to take out stops. They're trying to absorb as many orders as they can. So it's really important that you choose the right time to enter and understand what is happening. So one thing I wanted to talk about as well is higher time frame structures. If you don't focus on the higher time frames, like if you don't focus on the 1 hour, 2 hour, you can easily get stopped out because you're not getting the right confirmation. You're jumping down too early before getting the 1 hour confirmation. So what this means is when we're in a trade, so for example, this 1 hour candle closed, and then basically it retested this structure right here. Okay, so we retested the structure that it tested into. Now some people are like, so as you can see, this fully closed, so that's confirmation that it's going to continue down. So some people would wait for a test up to structure and then take it. Sometimes that does happen and sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't happen, because it happened at this structure right here, if that does happen, what you can do is just take it at the next structure. So if you wanted to get that 1 hour confirmation, that's what I always recommend, just so you don't get stopped out. What you can do is wait for this to break and test at this exact price based off the left, and then basically enter here at the break and test of structure. But you always want to have that 1 hour confirmation. The reason for that is because of this. So see how obviously we can see that this ended up closing at the 1 hour. So what people would do is they would enter here thinking it's going to break and then basically fill this wick. That's what they're thinking in their head. So they would set their stop loss. A lot of people set it so close, and so basically they will get stopped out, and then basically it will go without them. Okay, so they'll enter right after that 1 hour close, but they won't wait for that confirmation. So unless you're getting it up here, like unless you're getting it at major structure, that would be the better entry, obviously. But if you enter too soon and set your stop loss too close, you're going to get stopped out, and then it will go without you. So in this case, you want to make sure this zone breaks with a 1 hour confirmation. Then you can jump down on a lower time frame. You can get it at the break and test of this structure. You can put your stop loss above in this case, and then basically go back up on the 1 hour and follow through. So essentially what happened is it filled this wick and then basically went up from there. So, went down from there. So it broke and tested that wick, closed above, and then basically broke and tested below, and then continued down. Okay. So it's really, really important that you get the 1 hour closure first. So here's another example of the 1 hour closure. So this is a minor structure in between. We have a 1 hour close, this retest structure. So basically you would want to get it on that retest on the 15-minute. You would just make sure that this closes and tests. So it did on the 1 hour time frame. So it closed and tested right here. So you want to make sure that 1 hour closes to get that confirmation, jump down on a lower time frame, and then enter on a lower time frame, and then go back up. Okay. So here's a couple other examples. here's one right here. So we're coming up to a major structure. We tested it a couple times. The 1 hour closes below that structure. This comes up and retests. So then if we're taking an entry on this, you can go down to the 10-minute time frame. You can look for that retest. So that 1 hour closed. This came up and retested that 1 hour. And then basically you take the entry from here. You put your stop loss above. Again, not too close, because if you were to enter a little bit too early, if you had it too close, you'd get stopped out. So I do between 15 to 30 pips, depending on what time I'm entering at and what structure. And then basically you set your entry, you go back up to the 1 hour, and then basically you follow through structure. So this is an imbalance that has to fill. So it fills, and then we have multiple areas that we need to break. Eventually this imbalance will fill. I'm curious to see if it actually fills. What's crazy about this is that, here, let's just quickly see if it fills. Oh, I guess it did, actually. Looking back. Sorry, guys, I didn't even see that. It did fill. So this created an imbalance. It retested and filled and then continued. I was like, I wonder why it didn't fill right away, but it did. So basically, you just look left and make sure each price and each structure is breaking. So that imbalance did fill. That was a 1 to 12, 194. Okay, so the craziest thing too is after waiting. So see how this 1 hour closed? It actually ended up retesting. Here's your entry, continuation down. This 1 hour closed. Break and test, continuation down. So the craziest thing is when you end up in long, so this is obviously showing bullish, so we would look for an entry at 160 even, okay? So the craziest thing is when you can actually, so your sell targets are actually your buy targets as well. So if you enter to buy here based off the left and you're wondering, okay, well, where's my target? It's the same thing. So we're looking left here, we're making sure those two prices break. So this ended up breaking and testing. Okay, cool. So we carry it up. We have to make sure these two prices break based off the left. It ended up correcting during, this was Tokyo. So it ended up correcting and then it ended up breaking and testing. Okay, what's our next target based off the left here? So this ended up continuing, broke and test the next structure, and then literally all you're doing is looking left at the previous reactions. Now I know this looks easy, and it's because of the fact that we're back testing, right? And so the only difference when you're live, like when you're forward testing and you're live, is that this is taking hours. Like each candle is 1 hour. So that's the difference. You need discipline and patience. It's the same strategy trading live. It's emotional. So it's like, you know exactly where it's headed based off the left, but it just takes hours. Like this started Thursday at 12, and then basically it took till Friday. So that is the difference, is patience and discipline. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk about how 1 hour confirmations are super, super important, because if you were watching this on a 5-minute time frame, it can easily fake you out in the sense of you thinking it's going to break and then it doesn't, because you're in the wrong direction on a lower time frame. It's so, so important you get that confirmation on a higher time frame before going down. Once you get that 1 hour confirmation, you can jump down, get an entry, and then follow through and go back up on the 1 hour and follow through with your targets. So I hope this makes sense. Just keep back testing, keep replaying the entries, and you guys will do good. Thank you for all the kind comments and positive comments. There's so many of you that are like passing challenges and stuff, and it's all off my free content. So that's awesome. I am so proud of you guys. Just keep going, keep studying.